How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 3.
It's a funny split on TV right now. We're waiting for the president. He intends to speak here shortly, announcing the move of the Space Force to Alabama, potentially calling out the Guard in Illinois. CNN and Fox News are covering crime in Chicago right now. MSNBC? Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump's ties. Yeah. Now, here's the thing. If it were Fox News doing something like that and MSNBC and CNN were covering other news and Fox was avoiding it, Brian Stelter from CNN, Oliver Darcy and the like, they would all be covering that Fox News isn't covering what everyone else is covering. Well, you notice they never do that about MSNBC. Why isn't MSNBC talking about crime? Because the Democrats don't actually have a good solution there. The governor of Illinois has just come out with a selfie video where he says everything is fine in Illinois. There's not a crime problem in Chicago. Denial is not just a river in Egypt. Now, when the president speaks, I will try to take that to you, but I want to actually talk about something else right now. I saw this from Jonathan Martin in Politico, that it may be the only bipartisan issue in America today. I'm not sure it's the only one. There's actually growing bipartisanship on needing to do something on sports betting and the NIL stuff in college football, things like that. There are some common ground issues. The solutions may differ to a degree, but everyone kind of is on board realizing there's a problem. Here, interestingly enough, though, is where Jonathan Martin landed on the big bipartisan issue of the day. Cell phones in schools. Got to tell you, I and my wife, it's funny, for my friends who are listening right now who don't have kids, many of you will say, well, if I had kids, I wouldn't do that. If I had kids, this is the way I'd get it done. If I had kids, and then you have kids and you realize that all those things you thought that you would do before you had kids, when the rubber meets the road and reality beckons, doesn't quite work the same way. Because I assure you, if we had kids, we would not be putting our kids in front of screens until you realize when you have kids that they're excellent babysitters. You turn on a video on your iPad, put it in your child's lap, and you can go about your business while they are mesmerized by Bluey or some cartoon. God knows y'all should see my iTunes library and the amount of Barbie videos I have. I got Barbie Swan Lake. I've got Barbie Princess. I've got Barbie this and Barbie that and Barbie that. I got lots of Barbie movies from when my youngest was little and we needed to clean the kitchen or cook supper. Here, watch Barbie. They were dreadful, but to this day, she still watches them. Or Scooby-Doo. We got lots of Scooby-Doo movies, too. Both kids love Scooby-Doo and Batman. Remember the old one? The old one from when I was a kid. Oh, yeah, we let them watch the old Scooby-Doo shows where we're like, yep, we got to cook supper. Here, watch the screen. When my kid was tiny, I would hold her in my lap when she couldn't sleep, and we would watch Batman, the cartoon, old animated Batman series, where it was like the 1960s but cool with the police blimps and stuff. My kid to this day loves Batman. She's kind of way more obsessed about Batman than I expected her to be. She's a big Batman fan. She loves Batman because when she was little, I'd put her in my lap and we'd watch Batman. Screens sometimes help you. We also said as our kids were getting older, until they started driving, no phones. No reason for a kid to have a phone. And then a parenting moment happened. When my daughter was in 8th grade, I had to chaperone her on a field trip to Atlanta from Macon, where we live. Hour-and-a-half car ride. We were going to be in the city all day, stay overnight, see more stuff the next day, and come home. And I had to take 3 other girls in my car. So it was my daughter and 3 other 8th grade girls. I survived. And I realized that my kid there was no conversation in the car except my daughter talking to me. She wasn't talking to the 3 girls in the back seat. Now, she had only been in the school for a year. And what was going on is that the 3 girls had a group chat, and all the girls were in the group chat except my daughter, who had no phone. And so they were all having group chat conversations. My kid was completely excluded. I wound up giving them my cell phone number temporarily so that my daughter could participate in the group chat with everybody else. And it was kind of like, oh, this is why she's not making friends, because she can't participate and communicate. And I'll be honest, I kind of felt like the other parents had sold us down the river. We didn't want cell phones for our kids until they started driving, and realized that my kid literally could not be a part of any social circle at her school without being able to text the other kids. So we got her a phone, but then we put a lot of time limits on it. Apple iPhones have very good parental monitoring, and we limited what she could do and how long she could do it and how much she could be in the messaging app and stuff like that for a time. And as she got older, we released the caps more and more. But we couldn't keep her from having a cell phone. And now there's a big effort among governors to ban cell phones at schools. And some states have a 0 cell phone policy. Like, you can't even bring the phone to school. Can I be real honest with y'all where my mind went when I read this story? What about school shootings? I hate to be that way. By the way, I'm fully on board. You can't have your phone out in school. My kids' school has this policy. You cannot have a phone out in class. You can have it during lunch break. You can have it before school and after school, but you can't pull it out during school. And I just thought about, last week there was an active shooter alert at college, which is a little bit different, I realize, but was at college, and my daughter was texting us and said, Mom, Dad, there's an active shooter on campus. We've been locked in our classroom. We're barricading the doors. We're thinking of moving the bookshelves. And it wound up, thankfully, being a false alarm. It not being real, but I thought, I'm kind of glad that my kid could have her cell phone in class at the time. So I don't know that I like the full, complete confiscations. I mean, we do live in this day and age. But also, it is kind of wild to think that it's kind of a no-brainer for parents now. You don't want your kids. I got to admit, I'm kind of an addict. I find myself holding my phone all the time. It's like my security blanket. I have my phone in my hand even if I'm not looking at it, and I will just glance at it in mid. It drives my wife insane. She'll be talking to me, and suddenly I turn my phone on, and I don't mean it to be insulting. I'm just I recognize I've got an addiction problem with my device. I am constantly getting fed information, constantly getting text messages. I mean, right now, let me just pull out my phone here so you have a sense of this. Right now, I have 692 voicemails. I just never don't call me, don't leave me a voicemail. But for today, I have 30 text messages today. I have 28 direct messages right now on Instagram. I have 7 direct messages on Twitter. I have 45 unread emails. And by the way, I checked my email at the top of the hour, so I have 45 new emails from the top of the hour to now. And then I've got 3 messages in my Golfer's Journal app, Broken Tea Society app. So I mean, I'm inundated with stuff. And I'm just constantly checking in and replying to people, and it's nonstop. It is nonstop. But also, it's a habit I got to break. And I realize that, and I'm trying to be more mindful about keeping my phone in my pocket. I can't not bring it with me. That would give me too much anxiety. And even my wife is like, there are emergencies. You do what you do for a living. You gotta have your phone. Just have it turned off. But I'm the fact that we have allowed kids to have phones in school and use them during class time to begin with is, I think, part of the problem. Like, I'm very old school in that. I think until you get to high school and you're in advanced math, you shouldn't even be able to use a calculator, which a lot of schools are getting away from. And a lot of schools are starting to say, well, you're going to use ChatGPT to cheat. We might as well show you how to use it right. No, the critical thinking skills of a kid. I started using a computer in first grade. I was first introduced to computers on an Apple IIe in first grade. I have never been in a school that did not start using computers in early elementary. And I think computers are wonderful things and great tools, and they are the future. But also, I don't think just because ChatGPT can help you with your homework, you should get that help. Just because you can get the answers on your phone doesn't mean you should. There's something to be said for learning, for memorizing, for analyzing, for synthesizing, for comprehending, for putting it all together in your head without relying on a digital device. Can you imagine our society now if suddenly China hacked our internet tomorrow and shut it all down? Because it's likely, they've already embedded in our telecom system. Salt Typhoon, that's what they're getting at. Our telecom system is so compromised to China, they could turn off our entire cell phone grid tomorrow, and there's nothing UI or the federal government could do about it. Can you imagine if that happened? The people who survived off asking ChatGPT for stuff, or the ones that kill me now, or you put up a tweet and someone will reply, "Grok, is this true? You Neanderthal, learn to think for yourself. Half the time, Grok is wrong." The reliance. And by the way, in these AI services, the data that goes in, if it's bad, you're going to get bad data. And that's increasingly happening too. The AI processes bad data. It's not true. And you read the story that AI generated and you're like, oh, well, I guess we didn't land on the moon first. Pakistan did. Apparently, Pakistan landed on the moon before we did, teacher. Why do you say that? Because that's what the AI told me. No, it was Neil, not Neeli, who landed on the moon first. Some basic facts you should have to know. And I mean, you go down the Reddit. I mean, the ones that the people who get their information from Reddit are the ones that kill me. It's like everything is wrong. So I was subscribing to a financial advice section on Reddit, and I was like, my God, you people are all going to go bankrupt. Your advice is terrible. Absolutely terrible. Put it all in Bitcoin. No, diversify, please. Just wild. And having our kids in schools now so attached to their devices, I kind of like this idea. Georgia has now passed a law where I am that most states are headed this way. 18 states have pending legislation in the upcoming legislative cycle to ban phones in schools. And I think, again, I think it's a good thing. And here's part of the problem. The side problem that you're going to have a hard time dealing with is social media accounts. Because what happens when your kid doesn't get invited to the party that they didn't even know about, and then they see all their friends were at it on Instagram or Snapchat? The level of depression and anxiety that sort of stuff causes, it's a brave new world that nobody seems to have a good answer for. We become too dependent on the computer in our pockets. It's time to rein it back in. I think we were a healthier society when we were less plugged in. And I got to admit, I don't read for pleasure much anymore because I'm constantly in show prep mode for the show. I'm constantly reading. It's just nothing I really want to read. It's stuff I have to read. I think we've shackled ourselves to these devices. And AI is not going to make it better. It's just going to make us more stupid. Something's got to give. And the fact that Republican and Democratic governors alike have found this issue that they tend to agree with, that having fewer phones in schools, banning phones for kids, making them hand their phones in when they get to school and checking them back out when they leave school, is probably a good idea. It's probably time for us as a society nationally to say, kids, you can take your phone to school, but it can't leave your pocket unless there's an emergency or your teacher gives you permission. Probably we're at the point where that needs to happen so that our kids don't have the addictions to devices that the rest of us have, that I know I have. Hello, it is Eric Erickson here We're waiting for the president. He was supposed to speak at 2. He hasn't yet. In the meantime, big win for Lee Zeldin and the EPA. Remember, they paused those slush fund grants that the Biden administration gave out to people on the left that were environmental greenhouse gas reduction funds and the like. Lots of conflicts of interest, among other things. And a district court put a pause on it, and, it has been reversed. This is from the federal appellate court. We conclude the district court abused its discretion in issuing the injunction. The grantees are not likely to succeed on the merits because their claims are essentially contractual, and therefore jurisdiction lies exclusively in the Court of Federal Claims. And while the district court has jurisdiction over the grantee's constitutional claim, the claim is meritless. Moreover, the equities strongly favor the government, which on behalf of the public must ensure the proper oversight and management of this multi-billion-dollar fund. Accordingly, we vacate the injunction. Another big win for President Trump in a federal court against progressive activists masquerading as judges. The EPA gets to cancel the slush fund set up by Joe Biden to reward the Democrats. Fantastic. They keep losing. Like Judge Breyer, who says National Guard was operating as a police force. I suspect he's going to get overruled by the Ninth Circuit because they weren't operating as a police force. They were involved in supplemental help for existing law enforcement, or they were protecting federal property, which they're allowed to do. So the left just keeps making stuff up in finding these resistance judges. And these resistance judges are undermining the whole of the federal judiciary. At some point, the Supreme Court's going to have to crack the whip on this stuff. They tried with injunctions. Many of these progressive district court judges are just flat out ignoring the Supreme Court on this stuff. Now, when we come back, I assume the president's going to be speaking. If not, we got more stuff that we've got to cover today. We got a lot more stuff to cover, not just me talking about college football. And we'll take your phone calls, 877-973-7425. But first, I need to tell you about Hillsdale College. Some of these progressive judges should take their class on the Federalist Papers. You can if you go to ericforhillsdale.com today, ERICK, ericforhillsdale.com. You sign up with Hillsdale College. And you can take one of 40 classes at no charge. They're video lectures. Each episode's about 30 minutes long. They're video lectures from the professors. Depending on the class, depends on the number of episodes. There are between 7 and 10 episodes for the classes. And you can take classes on the Federalist Papers, on the Constitution, on citizenship, on C.S. Lewis, on Shakespeare, economics, chemistry, math. Lots of lectures from the best faculty at Hillsdale College. They're entertaining, they're engaging, they're good for your mind, and they're completely free. You go to ericforhillsdale.com, ERICK, ericforhillsdale.com. Sign up with Hillsdale College, and you can take one of these great classes. I do recommend out of the gate, take the Federalist Papers class. It's actually a fantastic class, and you learn a lot about the writings of Alexander Hamilton and James Madison and the others who participated in building the Federalist Papers, still cited today by the Supreme Court. ericforhillsdale.com. When we come back, did you know that the president died on Saturday? At least that's what progressives claimed on Saturday morning as their brains collectively broke. Hello there. I'll get to your phone calls here in just a second. We've been waiting for the president, who was supposed to start speaking at 2, and he's not, so probably not going to get to it. I woke up Saturday, and I got to admit, I slept in on Saturday. My wife's been under the weather, so I took the kids up to her parents' house for my daughter's birthday while Christy stayed home to rest. And I slept in on Saturday, and by the time I woke up to some messages from a couple people on Twitter. Is the president dead? What's going on? I had no idea what they were talking about. There were no headlines anywhere. Turns out that the left, which gave complete pass and cover to Joe Biden for 4 years, was convinced overnight Friday into Saturday that Donald Trump had died, and blue sky blew up. People were celebrating the death of Donald Trump, only to be let down that he still is alive. The man, by the way, they were saying he hasn't been seen anywhere. So he gave this marathon 3-hour cabinet meeting on Thursday. And then takes off Friday, goes to play golf on Saturday, and they're like, he must have died. We haven't seen him in 24 hours. And now people are like, oh, well, I mean, this is just the world we live in when you have such old press. No. You guys don't want to hold yourselves accountable for having gone unhinged on this. On the left, trying to make excuses for these people who have genuinely just gone bat crap crazy over Donald Trump. Yeah, I mean, the obsession with the Bruce, all the stuff that none of you people cared about when Joe Biden was president, you're suddenly deeply concerned about with Donald Trump, who is more accessible and has. We're not even a year into the Trump presidency. By the way, that should break some of your brains. We're not even a year into the Trump presidency. And he's already given more interviews with the press than Joe Biden did in 4 years. And you're thinking there's something wrong with the guy. It's wishful thinking on your part. And it's just genuinely insane. But this is where we are as a nation. The left has completely come unglued. Now, to the phones, 877-973-7425. Larry, you're going to be up first. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Eric, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Fantastic. I enjoy listening to you, and this is my second most famous radio moment because I did get to talk to Rush once.
Ah, well, yeah, way better than talking to me.
I don't know. You feel like somebody I could have a beer with and just enjoy.
Appreciate it.
My comment is that my wife's a teacher in Barrow County, and I agree with you that having the cell phones in an emergency seems like a good idea. But when the Appalachia shooting happened, the parents flocked to the school and got in the way of first responders. At her middle school, they were on a hard lockdown for 6 hours, and the classrooms that kids had snuck their phones in were very, very difficult to deal with, and it made things much worse. And that coupled with false alarms at a middle school or a high school level caused more problems than they solved. I agree in a college, it's probably a great thing to have.
Yeah, I haven't thought about it from that perspective, Larry, so I'm glad you called in to think about it. Yeah, if the kids are sitting in school and they're getting the alerts on their phones about what's happening and trading information, it turns into a game of telephone. I hadn't thought about it that way. So I can totally see that perspective. And yeah, although I do have to say that the parents showing up, that was going to happen because of the news reports, more so than just the texting. And the getting in the way of the first responders, look. I get it. It's your kids, and you want to get your kids, and you want to make sure your kids are safe. But the first responders got to get there first, people. It's like, I don't know if this is a good analogy, but I saw it happen again the other day, and I hope the guy went to jail because of it. There was a wreck, and some idiot decided that they were going to drive up the emergency lane to try to get off, and they got blocked. And here comes an ambulance in the emergency lane and can't get to the wreck because of the moron who can't get off the interstate. He's gotten into the emergency lane. There are people getting off at the exit, and so he's blocked them. He's the only guy in the emergency lane. Had he not been there, people were leaving enough space at the on-ramp, and he's blocking I'm like, you're blocking an ambulance from getting there. There was nowhere for the guy to go until people at the exit ramp had moved. It was wild. It's like, you got to prioritize first responders. I don't understand the driving in the emergency lane sort of stuff. There are times I want to pass the slow person in the left lane, and I want to pass them in the emergency lane on the left side just to make a point. And I don't, because one, my car's probably going to get a flat tire, but two, it's unsafe. You shouldn't do it. I don't understand the people, and I totally get parents rushing to the school, but getting in the way of the first responders once you're there, that baffles me. Tony, you're going to be up next. Welcome to the show. Tony, you there? Well, I don't know what happened to Tony. Tony is gone. All right. Well, we can move on. Amy Coney Barrett has a new book out. CNN was leaked a copy of it. Does not appear that it came from Amy Coney Barrett's team because she's refused to do an interview with CNN. And CNN, it was probably a publisher leaked copy to generate some buzz. But they're a little bit upset with Amy Coney Barrett. Why? Because She doubles down on defending getting rid of Roe v. Wade. Let me just read you some of this. Barrett, who joined the majority of opinion, believes the court has no business declaring abortion a constitutional right in the first place. Two of the other justices of the majority wrote separate statements. Barrett declined at the time. She picked up Alito's line from Dobbs that Roe v. Wade amounted to an exercise of raw judicial power. She echoes his view for the majority that the court's usual adherence to precedent could be rejected because Roe was wrongly decided. Elaborating in her book, Barrett contends the right to end a pregnancy was never deeply rooted in U.S. history, as were other implicit constitutional rights. The evidence does not show that the American people have traditionally considered the right to obtain an abortion so fundamental to liberty that it goes without saying in the Constitution. In fact, the evidence cuts in the opposite direction. Abortion not only lacked a long-standing protection in American law, it had long been forbidden. Barrett backs up her contention the Supreme Court was getting ahead of the American people in the 1973 Roe decision by citing the woman she succeeded on the branch. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, herself a supporter of abortion rights, observed nearly 20 years after Roe, the case may have halted a political process that was moving in a reform direction, prolonged divisiveness, and deferred stable settlement of the issue. Oddly enough, they're not happy with her at CNN for making this point. She's got a new book coming out. It's going to be interesting to see. She talks about some of the behind-the-scenes goings on in the court, but she doesn't go into deliberations and private conversations, things like that. But she's doubling down in defense of getting rid of Roe v. Wade. All right, Tony's back. Let's get to the phone call. Tony, welcome to the show.
Eric, thank you. I was trying to be smart and use an earbud to keep the road noise away from me, and I didn't get to you.
Not a problem.
Well, thank you. Two quick things. One, I personally think that 2007 marked the end of civilization as we know it, and that's when iPhones first came into being. And to imagine it's only 18 years since we've had them, but look at the first commandment, look what it says, and look what it says not to do. Put no false god before me. Who's in front of us all day long, every day? It's a false god. It's teaching us all kinds of things, and we do it willingly. And secondly, my other point was to AI. I use AI very well, and it's a terrific tool. But I'm a boomer, and I'm a critical thinker. Take this another generation or two, there's going to be no critical thinkers left. And then where are we?
Yeah, look, I mean, that's the way AI is working these days is absurd to me, that you're getting so many people who are just believing what the AI says. And, you know, I've got friends of mine, accountants and others, who have started using AI to help them do balance sheets and things like that. And even they say with the balance sheet, you still got to keep an eye on it. But it's only as good as the information you put into it. And given how much garbage information is out there, the AI is reacting as garbage. I run into it all the time. In fact, I was trying to help it, get it to help me write a summation of some stories for my 4 Things to Know This Afternoon podcast. So they literally, all 4 topics, it got wrong. And I keep trying and going back and trying again. And I've tried Perplexity, and I've tried Claude, and I've tried ChatGPT and Grok. And you use them over time, they're good. And then they start making subtle errors. And then the errors get bigger and bigger every single time, it seems like.
I finished a major legal memorandum. It was over 200 pages with exhibits. And there was one case in particular, it's on HOA law. One case, I said, wow, I know most of these cases back and forwards because I've done it a long time. I never heard of this one, but it's a Georgia Court of Appeals. It is right on the money. And I've learned, I said, I've never heard of this case. Go back and, show me the dicta from the case. We don't know where that came from. You're right. That's not a case.
Yes.
That's how people get disbarred.
Yes. It's happening more and more around the country. Listen, it can be so useful, but it's only as good as the information. I'm going to be interested to see if Nexus, Lexis, and Westlaw start deploying AI to go through their database, read all the cases, and start processing them. And then do they actually, over time, continue to get the summaries right?
I had Claude, I said, Claude, I can't find this case. And I said, I'm going to go out to Westlaw and LexisNexis. And they're going, there's no such case. And so I go back to him. And that's when Claude says, oh, you're right.
And, allegedly Claude is one of the best ones for that sort of research. And yet it still makes these mistakes.
Yeah. It's really good.
Yeah, well, look, Tony, I appreciate you calling back. Thank you. And yeah, I mean, that's the problem. Y'all, so I don't want to talk over your head with this stuff. So Claude is an AI personality. It's by a company, and you can go, and it's like ChatGPT. There's one called Claude. They named after a person. There's one called Grok. That's Twitter's AI. There's Perplexity, which is kind of an aggregator that stands on top of the others, as I understand it, and has some of its own unique AI. Then there's Google's Gemini. And there are these large language models where they process all sorts of language. They have an algorithm that kind of teaches it from diagramming sentences how to process what sentence structure means so they can derive the meaning of the sentences, and then it can summarize it. And it can be very useful. Like, for example, Apple has started in lengthy emails now in its latest operating system. It puts a little summarization tab at the top that says, here's the summary of the email you're about to read. And it does a pretty good job. But the more it does, the worse it gets, the more and more inaccurate it is. It's very weird to watch it. And the longer you use it without resetting it, the more it wants to placate you. And it's more interested in telling you what it thinks you want to hear than what is actually right. And here's the wild thing. They cannot figure out why. You talk to the AI researchers, you read the papers written, some of which I have, some of them are over my head, I can't understand. But some of them are written in a conversational way. They can't figure out why the AI does that. Why does the AI, over time, it's almost like it builds up an immunity to truth. It becomes so fixated on telling you what it thinks you want to hear that it gets stuff wrong. And you got to reset and start over. And it's very weird stuff. And again, this goes back to phones in schools and relying on this stuff. It just, I think it's a big mistake for us to allow our kids to do it. You know, my daughter now is thinking she wants to do accounting and economics as a double major and get her CPA license. And I was like, this isn't a bad idea because AI is never going to replace the certified accounting and things like that. AI is never going to replace your lawyer. AI is never going to replace an accountant. There's always going to be a monopolistic protectionist bubble in those degrees, so you'll be able to use AI to help you, but it's not going to replace your job. And I think more kids are going to have to think about this. Like, my son wants to be an architect. I'm like, you're going to be fine, I think, being an architect because there are some people who are using AI, but more and more the AI over time even breaks down there. It's weird that I'm having to have these discussions with my kids, though, of try to find a job for yourself that's not going to get replaced by AI. That's not something on the horizon for me growing up. And now all of a sudden, here we are, this brave new world. But I think it also begins with teaching your kids to have critical thinking skills that don't rely on phones and computers for them to be able to process information. You got to teach your kids to think. That's a critical skill, is teaching your kids to think. That's where classical education shines so much these days.
We are way ahead in space, but this will ensure we stay leaps and bounds ahead because that's the most important domain. Whoever controls the skies will control the future of warfare. And Mr. President, today you're ensuring that happens. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Katie, would you like to say something?
Mr. President, we are grateful for your leadership on this and restoring Space Command to its rightful home in Huntsville, Alabama. This delegation has worked together, both chambers, both parties, to make sure that Huntsville was the place that Space Command called home.
I can stop it there now. This went on during commercial break. Just to give you an idea, though, so U.S. Space Command was in Colorado Springs, where the Air Force is located. The president, of course, made space a new division of the Defense Department. It's outside the Air Force now. And the military has wanted to move Space Command to the Marshall Space Flight Center. Because it partners with NASA there so much. It was the Biden administration that blocked the move from Colorado Springs because they wanted to punish Alabama and reward the progressives of Colorado. It was a political decision by the Biden administration. It was not a political decision by the Trump administration. It was by the Biden administration, arguing that already space resources were located in Colorado, even though the military decided it would be more efficient and save the government money to move everything to Alabama. And now the president is making right what the Biden administration decided to politicize, moving the U.S. Space Command headquarters. Now, what do they actually do? Well, they oversee military satellite, space-based communications, parts of missile defense. Huntsville actually boasts most of the major defense contractors that deal with Space Command are headquartered in Huntsville, not actually in Colorado. And it's caused more and more logistical hurdles to have all of this in Colorado to punish Alabama. And let's be clear here. This was punishing Alabama by the Biden administration. Now it all gets made right with the president moving Space Force Command to Alabama. It will ultimately wind up saving the federal government money as well, which is part of the calculus here. In addition to the president does want to reward Alabama for voting for him, Colorado is increasingly a progressive state, and he would prefer to send the military somewhere where the military is supported, which is not the hippies in Colorado. So politics has consequences, even for things like this. Politics also has consequences for example, the price of gold. Have you seen it skyrocketing now as countries are ditching the dollar as a reserve currency? They're not going to the Chinese currency or the Russians. They're going to gold. Gold is skyrocketing. Swiss America has been the trusted leader in precious metals for 40 years. They've been warning people about a secret war on cash. If you're interested in safeguarding your hard-earned cash, you need to listen for this free report. They're rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau, and they can educate you on protecting your assets in this secret war on cash report. It takes less than 15 minutes to read. It can save on your retirement and finances. You get a free copy by calling or texting 800-289-2646. The All Out War on Cash includes digital forms of currency, and it is spreading. So get the Secret War on Cash report completely free. All you do is mention Eric, E-R-I-C-K, when you call or text 800-289-2646. That's 800-289-2646. You can also go to SwissAmerica.com/Eric. That's SwissAmerica.com/ERICK, or call or text them at 800-289-2646. Let Swiss America help you. Message and data rates may apply. I'm going to be off tomorrow. I got to be in New York City. I'll be back with you guys on Thursday. Dan Mandis is going to be in for me tomorrow. I've got to speak at a conference with radio professionals across America tomorrow. It's a talk radio conference, but I will see you guys on Thursday. I hope you had a great Labor Day weekend, and football is back. We got great games this week.